Welcome to the Modern Monk podcast. This is episode 11. We're talking about being yourself. My name is Cormac Taylor. That is myself. This is Toby Chilver alongside me.
How you doing, myself. I'm feeling good. I'm really pumped for this one.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get straight into it. So what does it mean to be yourself?
To not change how you behave based on what other people think. I think that is the core of being yourself. I think we can probably always reflect on periods or times where we feel ourselves, and it's around probably certain people especially. So I think the people that you surround yourself with and the environment that you're in play a big factor in the amount of time that you spend being yourself. A lot of people have friends or social circles or situations like work where they have to put on a mask, they have to act in a certain way that isn't true to who they are. It isn't them being themselves. I think the more time in your waking hours that you spend doing that, the less potent you are as a person and the less fulfilled you feel, because essentially what you're doing is performing to the world and saying, I'm doing this, can everyone please accept me and love me? And then even if they accept you and love you, they accept you and love you for not being yourself, which has got to be the most empty feeling ever. Yeah. So yeah, that's how I see it. Not changing your behavior based on what other people think.
Yeah. I remember a comment that someone said to me. This is when I was working in an accounting firm last year. And it was my manager. And he said, you're really good at moving through corporate environments, operating in corporate environments. And
what a compliment.
All that meant to me was you're really good at not being yourself.
Yeah.
It was very sad because it's very true. I think usually the office environment is the biggest one where people suppress who they truly are to fit into a box and become the type of person that is acceptable, that's who other people want to be. And as you say, it dilutes your potency big time and it makes you less of a version of yourself and more just like every other person is supposed to be. And my answer is the same as you. It is just doing things and acting despite what other people think, despite other people's opinions. I think it's an amazing tool to have because a lot of the time we think that we're not being ourselves and we're acting in a manner that wouldn't be who we are to appease other people. But oftentimes the authenticity of being yourself is actually some of the most appealing things that you can do to actually, build relationships and connections with other people, which is counterintuitive, but it's great.
Yeah, and I think let's drill down a little bit. When you are being yourself, you're being vulnerable. You're putting truly who you are out there for it to be accepted, rejected. So let's flip it. Why do people not act as themselves? It's to protect that themselves. It's to not allow themselves to be in that vulnerable position where they can truly be accepted or rejected. It's a cover to deal with the fear that maybe I won't be accepted as who I really am. If I never truly put myself out there, then I can never be rejected. But you're also guaranteeing that you'll never be accepted.
Yeah.
It's that fear that really, it makes you see that as such a rational decision when intrinsically it's completely irrational. Because you're guaranteeing you'll never get the one thing that we all really want in life, is to be accepted for who we are.
I really love the word you use, vulnerability. 2 weeks ago, you and I were on a camping trip with one of our friends, Owen, and it was pissing down with rain. We were like, what do we do? So we were sitting at a cafe, we're having a chat. And one of the things we were talking about is what are the variables that influence getting close and properly connecting with someone? And my original answer was simply just proximity to other people. But then we really drilled down into it and we said, well, no, there's actually a lot of exceptions to that where that is not the case. And the biggest exception was when people weren't vulnerable, when people weren't opening up and being truly themselves. And I think the conclusion that we came to was the biggest thing that allows you to connect to other people is your time exposure, the amount of time you spend around them, and their vulnerability, how open they are, how true they are to themselves. It is a immensely powerful tool to use to actually become closer to other people and develop that connection.
Yeah, and it makes so much sense. You think about how like Marines that go through like a basic training, think about how close they get as friends, as people. it's because they're both having to be completely vulnerable and, you know, share deep dark secrets and go through really difficult challenges where, you know, they're crying or they're doing all these embarrassing things or tough things. Like that is a situation where you build bonds at a fast rate, and it's that mix of vulnerability and proximity, 100%.
Yeah, and oftentimes when we think that when we're vulnerable, well, by definition, when you're vulnerable, you're opening yourself up to criticism and you know, exposing maybe weaknesses or areas that you found challenging. And oftentimes when we think about sharing that, we think, oh, people are going to really judge us. This is going to be a terrible thing. But oftentimes it is, A, what brings you close to other people, but B, people just really respect that about you. If you're someone who's very open, you actually come across as a very confident person. You come across as someone who's, you know, willing to share, and it does allow you to deepen that connection. And you talked about the example of with the Marines, and I think, you know, sports teams will do this as well. They'll go on camps together and they'll, you know, expose their weaknesses and their vulnerabilities and talk about how much it brings everyone together, and it's just such a powerful tool.
Yeah, and I think the opposite is true. If someone shows vulnerability and you reject that or you judge that or you don't treat that with the respect that it deserves, you instantly lose trust and you lose the ability to connect with that person. And I think lots of people have experiences like that. I think school is just an absolute feeding ground for this to happen, for, you know, you to be opening yourselves up in different ways and be getting shot down by the people around you. And I think that leaves some scars. And I think it leaves a lot of people thinking that the answer is to not be vulnerable and to get used to not being themselves. And, oh, well, Sally seems to like it when I don't play handball, when I go sit down and for recess and lunch. So I guess I'll just go sit down and recess for lunch because I want to please Sally. And, you know, that kind of behavior just gets learnt, and it works its way through into every aspect of life until you end up spending all of your time performing for other people's approval, which is then approval that doesn't fulfill your desire to be accepted for who you are.
Yeah, no, I think you're so right. It does leave scars, these childhood experiences of opening yourself up and being vulnerable and being shut down. And I think the big reason for that is because it hurts the most. When you're vulnerable, you're kind of opening up and you're trusting other people. And when they don't receive that the way you would like, that hurts. And that's clearly going to leave a scar. But I think that's not a good reason to stop being vulnerable and opening up, because it is a great way of connecting. It is just a fantastic thing to do. And especially, as you said, in school, I think it is where it all begins, because everyone is so self-conscious. Everyone is so insecure. They're in their own bubble. And then every time someone opens up, it's like, let me just lash out and throw a jab out there. Just so classic, so common. But I think it's hard to say, but you do want to ignore those scars that have been built up generally from that school experience.
Well, yeah, it's not even that it's a fantastic thing to do. It is like the only way that you're truly going to connect with people. And as difficult as it is, it's just something that you need to keep doing, keep reopening, keep asking that question of people, keep trusting that you're going to be accepted. And a big part of that is accepting yourself first. And I mean, if you don't truly accept who you are, you're never going to truly put yourself out there and allow other people to accept you. But it's difficult the more you've done it and had the opposite happen.
Yeah, it does require a certain amount of self-confidence. I want to know, why is it so challenging to be yourself?
Yeah, I think we were kind of just touching on it there. You either care way too much about what other people think of you, and you're letting that completely dictate your behavior, or you haven't accepted who you are. But when I think about it, that's really just you probably caring too much about what other people think still, and you just have internalized that to where you also believe what they think now. I've probably never had more of a overall better change of experience than when I stopped caring about what other people thought about me as much. Like that realization that, okay, I actually don't care what you think about me, because I have now enough self-belief, self-confidence, love for myself to be, this is who I am and I'm okay with that. You're either all about it and you love it, great, we can be friends, or you're not all about it, in which case, okay, we were never going to be friends anyway. I don't want the approval of someone who won't accept me for who I am. I'm not going to perform for anyone anymore. And it's when you kind of have that realization and you're able to start building those connections with people who do truly accept you, you just never, it's one of those things you never go back to because it's so profound to who you are and how you feel.
And there's a clear difference between those relationships for the people that you've truly been yourself, you've truly opened up. That connection versus the connection of that person that you know and you're kind of acting and performing, that's a very, very different relationship, don't you think?
100. It's completely chalk and cheese. Like you feel like you're acting for them, and so whatever nice things they say to you don't feel as nice. So for the only purpose of the mean things that they say to you also don't feel as mean. But all you're doing is you're just numbing everything because it's not all anything about you. It's just about the person that you're putting out there.
Yeah.
But again, like we have a finite amount of time on earth. Are we really going to waste it on relationships or spending time not being ourselves? Like it takes so long for us to figure out who we are and get that clarity. Like it's for most people, it happens somewhere in their 20s into their 30s. Are we really going to continue to waste time not being that person for other people? It just seems ridiculous.
It is such a waste of time. And it's so funny when I actually think about some of the last podcasts that we've done, some of the biggest factors in there. Aligning your goals with you, the long-term thinking and being yourself. A lot of this comes down to just actually not caring about other people's opinion. Putting that to the side and caring more about yourself, loving yourself more than what other people think. And that allows you to align your goals better with who you are. That allows you to think more long-term. That allows you to be more yourself, connect better with other people. These are huge unlocks. And when I think about it, this is all coming downstream of just caring less about other people's opinions. And I understand why it's so challenging to be yourself because we're fundamentally social creatures. We're social animals. We're just designed and we've evolved to be in these tight-knit communities where you very much need to play your role and do your part. And if you don't fit in, you're fucked. Like, goodbye, you can leave and go get eaten by a lion or starve to death, right? Because that is our baseline, that is our biology. We think the same way. We think that if I open myself up, if I be who I am, then everyone's gonna hate me, I'm gonna get cast out, I'm gonna get eaten by a lion, or I'm gonna starve to death. But the reality is, it's just not the case now. I think especially with technology, with being opened up to be able to travel and move around the world, all of these things, you're not restricted to one tribe and one small group of people. And being yourself allows you to connect a lot better with other people, and it allows you to create a much better tribe.
100%, yeah. And in this day and age, you can find whatever tribe you need to for who you are. But you're only ever going to find that when you know who that person is and accept them within yourself, because then you can go out and look for the people who are going to accept you and be, be able to form those connections and have that vulnerability.
Yeah.
It all has to start with you accepting yourself for who you are. And you're never going to do that if you care about what other people think. It has to start from you caring what you think above other people. Most people, I think, and me for a lot of my life, probably had what other people thought of me above myself. I probably definitely had family, and then I probably also had friends and, people I admired. And then, slowly I cared less about what distant friends thought, then probably less about, people I idolized, then like my close friends. And like, it's only really now where I'm getting to the point where like, even like what my family thinks about me, or the people I'm closest to, their opinion of me still matters less than me. Like, I'm the closest person that I will ever be to. I have to live with myself every day. And I think when you can accept that, you can be truly vulnerable and accept who you are, it's noticeable. You can walk into a room and people just notice that you have that conviction, that you know who you are and you accept that, it almost is like, gives you this force field that it's like, well, you can say like really mean things about me and like maybe they're true, but I accept who I am, so okay, I can survive this.
It is a huge shield to insults, because like, well, okay, you prefer that I live my life in another way, but I know who I am, I know what I want, so these insults don't mean a lot. And I really liked what you said, because I think it is very easy to say don't care about what other people think about you, but the reality is, to some extent, we're all going to care a little bit about what other people think about you. I think the goal isn't to get that to zero. The goal is to just have your opinion about yourself so much higher than everyone else's opinion about you. If you care so much more about your own opinion of yourself than what other people think about you, then it is a very, very, very powerful position to be in. It puts all of the chips on your side, all the cards in your hand, all the balls on your court.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. You're never going to not care what everyone else thinks. You're always going to care about what the people who you've been vulnerable with think about you, because they know more about you. They know part of your truth of who you are. And like, the closer someone gets to you, a lifelong partner will probably, get to 80, 90%, maybe, hopefully, but they're never going to know 100. Only you are going to know 100%. And so you have to put yourself first. And I think initially you probably have to create a lot of distance between everyone else, family, friends, especially if you're going through a period of personal growth or change, or you've been acting as someone else who's not truly yourself for a long time. Creating that separation is necessary. But then eventually you're going to let people who are close to you back in, or not back in, but you're going to believe more what they say, care about it more, because you know that they're also aligned with wanting what's best for you. But you should always be number one.
Oh yeah, 100%. And sometimes, as you say, that means that you might have to just say, okay, everyone else's opinion, I just cannot listen to this for a bit. And then you be truly yourself. And then at the end of that, it's like, okay, who's with me? Because you're truly going to see like who is actually with you and who is not with you. Because if there's a lot of people that are like, oh, so you're truly who you are now, I don't like you. It's like, okay, that's fine, but that's good to know. And I think that's moves us nicely into the next question, which is, how does being yourself impact the relationships that you have?
Yeah, I'm going to probably say it again and again, but until you act and you exist as who you are, you're not behaving like someone else, you can never be accepted for who you are. You have to put yourself out there, truly who you are, to be accepted for who you are. And ultimately, that's what you want from all of your connections. Like, you want to deepen connections by understanding who they are as people and them understanding what you are as people, and loving it, whether the good, the bad, the ugly. You just want to be them accept you as a whole person for who you are. You don't want to have to act in a certain way or hide certain things. You want to be able to be vulnerable and be human. Like, I have parts of me that are embarrassing, parts of me that I'm ashamed of. But if you can at least own that and be like, oh, well, this is the darker side of me. This is something that I do that I don't like. That only gives people the opportunity to accept you for who you are. And that's going to strengthen and deepen connections.
I think there's nothing worse than thinking, okay, I'm about to be around these people. Oh, what mask do I have to put on? Who do I have to become for these people? And then it's like, okay, now there's a different person. Okay, what mask do I have to put on to become the person that I'm supposed to be around this person? And you're constantly putting on different masks. You're never actually truly being yourself. If you just ripped all the masks off and you said, here I am, who's with me? It's going to be very different. And I think the big thing that comes to mind when I think about being yourself and when it comes to relationships is you're going to have quality over quantity. You will have less friends if you be yourself. You will have less friends. That is almost a guarantee, unless yourself is just, I don't know, some godly personality that everyone wants to be around. But most of the time, you're going to become more polarizing. People are going to like you more and people are going to dislike you more. And if you're friends with people who would dislike you if you were yourself, that's going to be a difficult relationship because you're constantly going to have to put on a mask. You're constantly going to have to be someone that you're not just to maintain a relationship with this person. If you just ripped off all the masks, you just were yourself, and you just saw who was with you and who was not with you, you would have a very, very high quality small set of relationships. It will definitely be smaller, but it will be higher quality. And I think that's been one of the big shifts that I've had over the last year, 2 years in particular, is the friendship circle that I've had has reduced in quantity, but the net quality has increased significantly. How close I can get to other people has improved a lot. It's gotten a lot better. And in fairness, I've always been a person who's been very honest. I've always been quite people would consider me quite coarse, I speak my mind. Brash, yeah. I speak my mind, and that in itself definitely allowed me to filter through who I would actually be able to be friends with. But opening myself up and being more vulnerable to who I am has improved that significantly more.
Yeah, this is definitely an area of life where you want quantity over quality.
Quality over quantity.
Sorry, correct. You want quality over quantity. Yeah. You want to go deep and form deep connections with a few people. You don't want to be lightly connected to a lot of people. And I was going to agree with what you said about you're going to have less friends if you open yourself up, you be vulnerable. They were never your friends. If you were having to put on a mask and then they don't accept you when you reveal it for who you really are. They just were never your friends. They were probably pretending, you were probably pretending, and you were both just let's exist together and make it fun.
Yeah.
Then they just weren't actual true friends. And I think we go through these periods of life where we surround ourselves with these people and we force ourselves to have to put on this mask because we're surrounding ourselves with these people. And we've talked about it in one of our first episodes about the environment that we create. It's so important, fundamental to who you are, the people that you spend your time with. Because eventually, if you spend a lot of time with someone, you're going to reveal little bits of yourself. Even if you're trying to put up a mask, you're going to seep through a little bit. And so if you're not around the right people, that's going to be a really negative experience for you. But if you are around the right people, the more you reveal of yourself, the better experience you're going to have of life, because you're going to feel accepted by them. They're going to encourage you to accept yourself. It's just ultimately a win-win.
Yeah, and what do you think about the expression, you are the sum of the 5 people around you? Because when I think about that, and I think about the fact that if you can be more yourself, you're going to attract more people who you would genuinely be friends with. And I think that in of itself allows you to surround yourself with people who are more you. In of itself allows you to become more you. What do you think about that?
I think that the depth of your connection to those 5 people is the barometer for how well they represent you. So let's say you have your 5 closest friends. You have 2 that are kind of 2 steps ahead of you where you want to be, and you're not super close to them yet. You're not really connected. And you have 3 friends that are at the same kind of level as you. They're going through the similar experiences and you're really connected to them. I think that's how it would play out in that situation. You'll be more connected to the people who are more similar to you, who are a better expression of who you are. And so if you have your 5 closest friends you're not connected to at all, those 5 friends are not a good representation of who you are. Because they don't know who you are. You haven't given them the opportunity, you haven't been vulnerable, you haven't formed that deep connection. So therefore they're not a representation of you. But if you have 5 friends who know you inside out, you've shared every little bit of yourself that you can with them, and they've accepted you and you've accepted them, you've gone through all of this, you're connected, then they are ultimately the best representation of you.
I think in our first podcast, one of the questions that you posed was, could you bring one of your closest friends to a table, to a room of all of the people that you truly admire in your absence to represent you, and would they truly represent who you are? I think that's kind of what we're touching on right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great barometer to use for the people that you have in your life and who you're surrounding yourself with. They have to represent you to people you love, care about, idolize. Are you worried? Are you worried about the reflection that they give of you, because ultimately they are reflecting who you are to everyone that you meet. Like subconsciously, everyone judges you based on who you spend your time with and the people that you hang out with, because they assume that you have a deep connection if you're hanging out together. And so again, what is the point of surrounding yourself with people that you're not deeply connected to then just be judged for hanging out with those people? Because it's inevitably going to happen. You may as well surround yourself with people that you can truly connect with and have a better experience, and then I don't agree that it benefits you to be accurately judged, but it is nice for your true self to be reflected to other people through who you're with.
And I think that's such a good point, is that people just assume, okay, these are the people that you spend most of your time with, so you're very close to them. I think a big issue with the way that people generally analyze someone's social success, how socially adept they are, is essentially, if you had a birthday party, how many people are you bringing? That's how good someone's relationships are, is how many people you're bringing. But that only answers one question, is how many. But what is the quality? And I think if you're bringing a lot of acquaintances to your party, does that really mean that you're doing super well socially? Or would you rather have a handful, a special forces unit of truly people who represent you and who you are, who understand you, who are actually close to you and genuinely your friends?
Yeah, I think it's another little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy that if you care what other people think about you, you're going to have lots of acquaintances, and you probably care that lots of people see that you have lots of friends. And so for you, that's a good thing. And so you keep having this large circle of people that you're not very connected to and that you have to act a different way around. But because you care so much about being seen as the person who has lots of friends, you're never going to have the deep connection with the few people who actually will accept you for who you are. And you just end up you're performing for a crowd where the applause just means nothing to you. Like I can't think of a worse hell than spending your whole life pretending to be someone for other people's approval, only to get their approval and it feel empty. Like coming to these realizations of who you are, being and accepting yourself, being who you are for more of your waking hours around more people, is going to save you from all of that heartache and realization.
I think what we're really coming to right now, and the core of this podcast, is being who you are is just really enhancing your social experience in life in general. Being who you are is influencing who surrounds you, how deeply you're connected with those people, who you truly care about. I think all of this is tying back into the social aspect. I think that has to be, if we zoom out big picture of this podcast, the biggest takeaway is that being who you are is going to influence you socially, probably more than just about anything.
Yeah, and who you are socially impacts who you are as an individual and what you achieve. Like it's all interlinked. So like it's such an important thing to think about and to dedicate time to, acting upon. And so I want to know, what are the 3 things that I can do right now to be more myself?
Okay. I have 3 things, and these 3 things are 3 podcasts that we've done.
Here we go.
Align your goals with you, think long term, and the fear of failure, removing the fear of failure. If you've truly aligned your goals with who you are, if you're taking action despite what other people think to truly become who you are, you're naturally going to become more yourself. If you're thinking long term over a long time horizon, then you're probably not thinking, how can I, add more friends? How can I appease these people? You're thinking, okay, what do I want in the long term? Who do I truly want to become? This is again going to very much help you be yourself. And then thirdly, removing the fear of failure. I think a lot of the reason that we don't take action, we decide not to be ourselves, is because we're incredibly afraid of failing, of other people perceiving us as a failure. We discussed in the Fear of Failure podcast that you can essentially remove your fear of failure. You can essentially remove that by having a super long-term time horizon and never ever quitting, right? If you have these things, if you remove your fear of failure completely, then you are just going to constantly take action and move yourself towards your goals and inevitably towards who you want to become. If you're afraid of failing, then you might think, oh, well, let me appease these people. Let me kind of become put on this mask to be a different person. I think if you don't have that fear of failure, if you truly believe I'm going to achieve the things I want to achieve, then you would be much less concerned with other people's opinion of you, and you would be much more aligned with who you are. So I think if you really want to be yourself, look at those 3 podcasts, study them, and embody them.
Yeah, no, you're really standing on the shoulders of our previous work here, but touching on that fear is a huge one. I mean, you said it yourself, we are social creatures, and we're always going to care a little bit about what people think about us. So there's fear attached to that. But we just talked for an hour a couple of weeks ago about how you can remove that fear of failure. So I think it's a perfect way to tie it all together, definitely.
Yeah, I think a lot of us trying to put these masks on, trying to appease other people is, in one way or the other, you kind of want something out of someone because you don't believe that you can do it yourself. You're a little bit afraid of not achieving certain things. I think if the fear is not there, you would be like, okay, this is who I am. When you see a lot of the super successful people that have made it, right? I think about someone like Alex Hormozy, who walks around in a tank top in board shorts. He's doesn't present himself all that well, but it's just someone who has succeeded, who just knows that he will succeed, and is like, well, I don't really care what other people think because I'm going to succeed, or I have succeeded. And I think if you can bring that forward to today, one of the things that we talked about in our previous podcast about thinking long term is, how can I do the things that I would do in 10 years today? And if you're not going to care about other people's opinions in 10 years, why are you doing it today, right? If you know that you're going to achieve these things, then you're not really worried about people's opinion of you. You're very self-confident in who you are, and this allows you to become who you are more.
Yeah, it's another great exercise to you. If you're not going to be friends with them in 10 years, why do you care about what they think about you right now? You're going to live, decades to come. You're going to want to form strong connections with people and keep them around. So if you don't see that person as someone who you truly align with and you're going to want to keep with you on this journey, you're just wasting your time by caring about what they think.
That's a really good point. Yeah. If you're not going to be friends with this person in 10 years, then why are you friends with them today?
Yeah. It's probably for some reason other than truly wanting to connect with them as people, and they probably also don't answer the question of, are they a good reflection of who you are or who you want to be?
I think there's a judgment that we have, and just a general rule in society, that is, you always want to have more friends. You never want to lose friends, right? You just need to always have more and never lose.
Yeah, like a popularity contest that we all participate in.
And it's not particularly helpful, especially if this person's not going to be in your life in 10 years, or you don't think they will be, or they shouldn't be, then why are they in your life right now?
Yeah, it's not even that it's not particularly helpful. It is like the antithesis of everything that will bring you joy. Like trying to win a popularity contest. It's just stupid.
All right. What are your 3 things you can do today to become yourself?
My 3 things are so powerful that there's only 2 things. Create an environment where you're surrounded with people that you want to connect with, that you can truly be yourself around. It'll feel so right. It'll be so obvious. Number 2, be more vulnerable. You've probably had an experience recently where you were in conversation with someone and you had a thought that was about revealing something vulnerable about yourself, and you probably suppressed it and didn't say it. The more that you just say that thing, you put out that offer of, this is who I am, the more you'll be accepted for who you are and the deeper connection you'll form with that person. And B, the more you'll get used to facing that rejection and then coming back to, okay, well, I care what I think more than anyone else, and that's all that really matters.
Wow, I love that. Okay, one of the rules that I have for myself is that if you ever think about something good about someone, essentially if you think of a compliment, that never goes unspoken. You always say it, right? If I think your hair looks good today, I say, Toby, your hair looks good today. But after hearing that, I think I'm going to add another personal rule to myself. And that is, if you think there's an opportunity for you to be vulnerable, be vulnerable. If you know there's something that I could say that would leave me vulnerable, say it. Because the downside is always much more catastrophized than you think, and the upside is always more than you think.
Yeah, and I think it pairs so well with the first rule about creating the right environment. If you put yourself in a room of people who don't want what's best for you, and then you're vulnerable at every opportunity, you probably can't handle that. But if you've set up your environment and you've surrounded yourself with the right people, the more vulnerable you are, the better your life experience is going to be, I think. Because the deeper connections you're going to form, the more acceptance and love you're going to feel. It's all just going to help you move in the right direction.
That's a good point, because if you've surrounded yourself with people that you probably aren't that close to, and then you open up and they're like, ha, they start, taking the piss, that's going to hurt. We spoke about this earlier, is opening yourself up leaves you a bit exposed. And that means that if someone does, jab the knife in when you're exposed, it's going to hurt. So it's very right that these do work well. They synergize well together. If you're in the right environment, it allows you to be vulnerable and actually be rewarded for it rather than be, stabbed for it, essentially.
Yeah. And I want to caveat what I say with know your limits. Don't just lay yourself bare in front of, anyone and everyone and put yourself out there, because, it is potentially damaging. But yeah, just, I think in general, be a little bit more vulnerable with people who have your best interest in mind, and you'll connect more and you'll gain so much from it.
Yeah, big time. The more that we can become vulnerable, the more that we can connect. And the more time you spend around someone, the more you can connect. So if you spend more time being vulnerable, you're going to connect on a deeper basis. And this is a big unlock for relationships, and relationships are going to be the cornerstone of who you end up becoming. As we said, you are the sum of the 5 people that you're around, and if they're good people, it's going to be very, very good for you.
Yeah, and I mean, we both have very similar buckets that we want to fill in life, wealth, health, and relationships, or what I call connection. And this is a huge unlock. I mean, I don't think we spent as much time really talking about this bucket, but this is this is definitely one that's close to my heart, and a realization that's changed my life in a lot of ways, being able to connect more deeply with the people that I care about, have a better relationship with myself and my inner self-talk, and also to be able to cut out the people who aren't good for me. It's a little bit painful to put yourself out there and be rejected, but it's pushes you to that fuck it moment of, okay, well, they're not my friend.
I think one of the reasons that we don't speak as much about connection is that we're very tactical in the way we talk most of the time. I am very tactical, and you are as well. And I think the thing about connection, relationship, is that there is a bit of ambiguity. It's very hard to quantify successful relationships, being successful when it comes to connection, just because you can't say, I have X number of friends, I have a girlfriend, or I have X number of girlfriends, right? You can't say that, because the quantity is, at the end of the day, rarely the marker for success when it comes to connection, and it's very hard to quantify. But I think if there is one thing that would significantly improve that connection, I think it's what we're touching on today, and I think it's being yourself.
Yeah, you're right. There isn't a good measurement for what is the depth of my immediate connections, other than how much of the day do you spend being yourself?
All right, I'm leaving it there. I think it's a mic drop finish. All right, that was episode 11 of the Modern Monk podcast. We're about to move to a Q&A call inside of the Modern Monk community. So if you're not in the community, you can join for free at school.com/Modern Monk. You get 30-day early access to all of these podcasts, and you can talk to us afterwards. You can pick our brain, question what we say, which is all good stuff. So
yeah, we're talking about a community here, and this is the opportunity to join a community of like-minded people who you can share and be vulnerable with and deepen your connection. So come along.
Time to connect. All right, we'll see you next week.
See you
Cheers.
then.